Hi, this is Trinesha Cottrell, and today I wanted to talk about clarity. So, what made me want to talk about clarity is today at church, the pastor was talking about the man whose daughter had died and how they were saying, don't bother him with this because your daughter is dead. And so the Jesus overhears this and he goes to the girl and he says something to her, telling her. In some translations, it says, little girl arise. And then in other translations, it says, little girl get up. And so it's so funny how God does these types of things in our life because I'm going to say this because I feel like it'll help someone else and I'm being completely transparent. It'll just be one of those things. When I did my post today on Facebook, I do like a like weekly thing. And so when I was on there, I talked about what we talked about in church. And that verse is Luke 8. And you can start at, for people that don't like read the entire chapter, even though you should. I'm not trying to tell you how to do it. I'm just saying it's good to get clarity throughout the whole thing. But the part, like I kind of put it into one part just so that if people want to go back and like verify or read it for themselves, they can. And it might illuminate something else to you that God wants to tell you or God wants to speak to you through the scripture. And so I put 8:49 through 55 because that's the part where the guy goes up and he says he's trying to get Jesus' attention because he wants him to help with his daughter. And then the person tells him that no, like, don't trouble him with this because your daughter's dead. And Jesus overhears and he decides to step in and perform another miracle because he can do all things because he has the power that God gave him because he's God in the flesh. And so I just thought it was so amazing hearing this story about how even when some people didn't feel like it was a chance or an opportunity or anything that they allowed, and I did not bring my phone in here. I wrote this nice little thing too, but it's okay. But even when no one had faith, and the title of the sermon I think was resurrection in it's something about resurrection in faith. It's called the experiencing the resurrection. That's what it was called. And so as the pastor went through the sermon, he just talked about resurrecting faith and how sometimes we can believe in some things, but then we don't have faith for other things. And we might be all for it when we're thinking about one thing in our lives. We're thinking about God doing this thing. But when it comes to certain things in our life, we could still be faithless. And it's so weird how that happens because we could be like down for God and everything else and just be about that life. And then when things get real, we start to feel like, well, can God do this as well? Because we've seen him perform in other areas, much like these young men did when they were experiencing the miracles of Jesus, and they saw him do all of these things, but they had never seen him get someone to rise from the dead. They never saw God perform that type of miracle, so they knew he was. They never saw Jesus perform those type of miracles. And it's so funny because I feel like that's how we are in our life as well. We see God get us out of a bad relationship. We see him like start us all over again and make our this year better than all 30 years of our lives or however long you've been here on earth. And it's so funny because we could feel like, oh, God can turn anything around in a day, in a week, in a year, in a month. And he can make the 1 month the best month of your entire life, the best thing that you've ever been able to do because you have God on your side. And but then when it comes to certain things, like for me, it was relationships. I would say, I know God can make a way when it comes to a job, when it comes to a house, when it comes to my family, my friends, all of these things. But when it comes to relationships, I just couldn't see how God would do that even for me. And I know if you've seen that video, even for me, that's what that was about. And you could go back and like hear part of my testimony and things like that as well, because God illuminates certain things in my life. And I think it's because there's levels to this. I know we know like the gist or the standard for what you should be or what you should do in your religion. But when things get tough, when things don't go your way, when things are happening in your life that don't make sense, sometimes it doesn't feel like like, God can perform miracles. He can do anything. And you've seen him do other things, but you just don't know how he's going to do this thing, but you know that he will. That's how it is in different areas of our lives. We get so much confidence in this one thing. Like when it comes to work or my business or something else, I know God can come through. I know he could do all of these things in my life. And when it comes to like me becoming a better person, I know that he could change and break those things off of me that don't mean me any good, that do not mean me well. I know that when it comes to family and friends, if there's a certain circumstance or a situation, he can turn that situation around. I know that when it comes to touching the heart of some people who are cruel, he has that type of talent. He has that type of power to be able to change the heart of our enemies, to be able to make them work in our favor. And it's so funny. I wish I could share this testimony, but I can't divulge this information for specific reasons. I can't go into detail about it, but there was a scenario where God stepped in on my behalf. This person did everything they could to try to stop what God was doing in my life. They literally put every single hurdle, everything that they could think to throw at me. They threw at me to try to stop what God was doing in my life. And everything they did worked in the benefit. It worked in taking like whatever kind of toxicity I might have still had within me. It got rid of that. It allowed me to see how much I matured in certain situations. It gave me patience in certain areas. It allowed me to be able to learn in different ways. In areas where I would have been ready to run or feeling like I want to give up on myself, it allowed me to push through because I knew God was with me, and it allowed me to keep going. And it's so weird because in the past, before I knew God, I would have given up on myself. I would have given up in that situation. But now I know I can't give up because God brought me way too far to just turn back now. Just for him to just say, okay, I'm going to just put you in this spot. For him to just say, okay, this is the best that it gets. I know that God is the God of abundance, and there is always more. There's always something else that God is doing in my life, and I can't allow someone else's opinion of what my life should be determine what my life is or what my life is going to be. It's funny because in the Bible, some people say you're going to the promised land, but really it's the promised land because it's what God already intended from you from the beginning. It's because even though we only see our life from this day, from the past to this day, God and the adversary see our lives from our end goal, from the people's lives that we will touch, from the things that we will change, from our legacy, from generational curses that will be broken, from those generational traumas that will no longer pursue or be able to penetrate our families. It is those things that really scares the adversary. It's those things that God sees in us, which is why we look at ourselves like, I don't see how that's going to happen. And God's like, it already happened. Like, what are you talking about? You don't know that I'm God and I already planned this? Like, I knew that you have free will and you're going to do whatever you want in this season. But when you come to me, the things I'm about to do in your life is not going to make any sense to anybody else. You're not even going to be able to explain how you got here. But because you have faith in me, because you stayed focused on me, I was able to bring you through. I was able to bring you here. And it's so funny because I have this one person that always likes to copy off of the things that I do. And I meet certain people like this as well. But I always like try to be nice about how I say, like, hey, stop copying me. And I don't say it like that. And God did tell me that this is just the beginning. There are going to be other people that see what you're doing or the blessings that I'm putting on your life or the things that I'm doing, and they're going to want some of that. And it's human nature to want something when you see something that looks good. It's not, and I'm not saying looks good like appearance. I'm just saying like because I'm in a place because I'm taking care of myself. Things like that that other people aspire to have. They're going to say, okay, well, if she's moving this way, let me move this way too. It's going to be like a magnet that kind of draws people in because they see that you're blessed, because they see the joy that you have from me, and that's how he gets to bring other people to him because of testimonies, because of blessings that people are showing other people. And I'm not saying like I need to just go and be like boastful and just like flossing or whatever else it is. I'm just saying that when people can see the God in you, it attracts people to you. And sometimes it's annoying. Sometimes it's more like, oh my gosh, like this person is really doing this. And I'm trying to get to a place where I'm okay with people doing that, because I don't know what they're going through. I don't know, like, what their life might feel like to them. And maybe when they see the hope that I have, they feel like this is what I have to do to get hope. But my hope for those people is that they seek God, not me, because I'm a human being that will mess up. I don't want their religion to be based on what I do and I mess up tomorrow, like every single human being in this entire world. And they say, well, God can't do this, or God's not going to do this. God is not going to be able to do things for you in your life if you're copying off of somebody else. If you're doing the exact same thing that somebody else is doing for absolutely no reason, it is not going to bless you, because the blessings that I have on my life is because I'm following God's direction. It doesn't make sense for anybody else's life for them to do this, and anyone else's life for them to do this. It makes sense in my life because I'm seeking God, not because this is what you should do, you know? So, like, for me, if God says, go volunteer at this place, you might be able to volunteer at that place too. And God might introduce me to some person who's on a platform that does speaking engagements, and I work in a program with a bunch of women at some women big giant women's conference that's heard all over the world. And they're like, oh, I need to go to this conference. I mean, I need to go to the center to serve just for selfish gain. That's not why I was doing it. I was doing it because I was being obedient to God, and God opened those doors. That's not just, you don't just randomly get opportunities like that. That's God looking out for me. And so I just want people to really understand what God does in my life and how he can do it in their life as well, as long as you are seeking him. Don't seek what I'm doing. Don't seek what Bob, Jane, and Jack are doing. Like, you need to focus on you. You need to focus on bettering yourself. You need to focus on seeking God so that God can guide you in your life, because God is the only one who is perfect. So if you're looking for someone who is perfection at its purest, that is God. That's not a human being. No man is ever going to be perfect. No woman is ever going to be perfect. No child is ever going to be perfect. Every single person, every single thing on this earth will never be as perfect as God is, ever. So I hope that you really look deep down inside yourself and see what it is that you're missing. Because if you're seeking something from another person, they're not going to be able to give it to you. You have a God-sized hole in your soul, and a person can't fulfill that. A person can't fill that up. That's only a place in your heart and your soul that God can fill up. If you're seeking it from me, if you're seeking it from another person, like a significant other, a spouse, they can't be God. They can't. That's an unrealistic, that is so much pressure to put on another human being. You have to really think, like, imagine someone putting that pressure on you. How would you feel if someone was looking to you to be their God? It might boost your ego, but you can't be perfect. You are always going to make mistakes because you're human. So I just wanted to say that because I see people do that, and I really don't think they understand that they're beautiful, that they're smart, that they have so many other things they're talented in. And if they're focused on what I'm doing, they're going to miss their blessings. And some of the women who are trying to copy paste my life, or other people that I encounter, they're doing it because they're missing something. And I'm not saying it as like a dig or anything like that, because I honestly, I truly, really want everybody to benefit, everybody to be winning. I feel like all of us could win, but I don't think we can win copy pasting the same moves. I think there could be like a plan of action. Like, maybe we all plan to do blah, or we all follow God and God says we're going to work in a group together to do blah. But I don't think that you just trying to be like someone else is what God wants you to do. If that was the case, he would have probably made you like that person, not like who you are. And you're already amazing as you are. You don't have to be somebody else. It's so funny. But let me get back to the scripture and everything else. I had to say that because I felt it in my spirit, and not because I just wanted to say it for selfish reasons. I really feel like it'll help people, especially when you're on YouTube, or especially when you meet people and you're doing things like, the book that God blessed me to write, that He used me as a vessel to write my testimony to help other people. I really feel like people don't understand, like, when you do things like that for God, that is for God. It's not for me. It's not because I thought this was going to happen. It's because I was being obedient, you know? And so what I wrote, or what I wanted to share, is, so today is technically, when this video comes out, it'll be February, but unless I post it tomorrow or something like that. But today is technically January 29th, 2023. And I'm going to share this because it might help somebody else. But what I put on Facebook, and then I'll try to, like, maybe go into depth if I can, or I don't know. But it was this day, exactly this day, 2 years ago, that I was at my lowest point in life. And okay, I'm gonna just tell the story, because on Facebook it's just like a little, like, paragraph. It's not like a long message or anything like that. But it was 2 years ago to this day. I was at my lowest point in life. I really didn't see what could happen in my life that could be better. I didn't see what in my life could happen that I would benefit from, or what would really make me. I didn't see anything better happening. I really felt like that was it. Like, this was the end of the road. Like, it was really just like everything I did in my past. Like, this is the result of it. I really felt like there was nothing else for me to do. Like, I didn't know how I was going to continue. I didn't know how I was going to move forward. I didn't know what I was going to do in my life. And technically it was November of the year before that. But this day 2 years ago was the day that was the end of the relationship. And I know you're thinking, 2 years, you should be over it. You should be good. You should be out there dating. And like all the other people say, you're beautiful. You should be dating people, And I know they mean that as a compliment, and I understand, but the healing process is the healing process. It's not when other people want you to be ready. It's when you're ready. And I definitely don't want to meet somebody who actually deserves the type of love that I give to, to be, for me to have any toxicity that I'm dragging into that. I want to make sure that I'm in a good headspace. I'm emotionally good, physically, psychologically, everything in a decent place. I don't expect to ever be perfect, but I do want to make sure that I'm not carrying any toxic characteristic or personality, whatever traits, into anything new or any other situation. And I shouldn't say situation, I should say relationship, because I don't want to be in any situation. I want to be intentional with whatever it is that I'm doing in my future. So, and I mean that. I don't mean it in like I have all these years to waste because I could be gone tomorrow. I'm not trying to waste that kind of time. And I'm not saying everybody has to, just do what I want them to do. I'm just saying that if we're both intentional, we have an idea of what it is that we want. It doesn't have to work out that way. Life is going to happen the way that God intended it to happen. I don't think, we can just say, oh, yeah, because this is what, like, I'm going to definitely discern with God to make sure that this is God for sure instead of like rushing to figure out. I just want to take my time. I want to make sure that I know that it's not the adversary trying to send me a distraction so that I can be not focused from my purpose and be all over the place, constantly thinking about somebody that doesn't deserve to be taking up rent space in my mind. I want to make sure that it's someone who actually deserves for my patience, my understanding, for me to be the type of person, the type of woman, the type of partner that God intended for me to be. I don't want to be this like rude, cruel, angry. Like, I don't want anything toxic there. I want to make sure that I'm the person that God intended me to be before I step into something like that. And I know you're probably thinking, well, you're not going to be perfect. I know I'm not going to be perfect. There's still going to be like little like quirks things about me that are going to probably annoy the mess out of the other person. I don't know, but it is what it is. I don't expect that to be perfect. That's going to be a part of me. I just don't want to intentionally be toxic for no reason. I don't want to have a whole bunch of drama. Like, I don't want to be worried about anything because God's got it. I just want to do what I got to do. That's it. I want the other person to do what they're supposed to be doing. That's it. What they got to do. I don't expect them to be perfect. I don't expect them to know everything that I'm thinking because they can't read minds. They don't have that superpower. Like, I just, and you probably can tell I like Marvel, but that is that is besides the point. But yeah. Mm-mm-mm. And when I say Marvel, I wouldn't say I like all Marvel. I don't have my thing. I did, but I made it for somebody else. So I have this little family member whose birthday, and I made them a pillow, and it's got all the Marvel superheroes on it. It's got like Spider-Man, Iron Man. It's got all of them on this thing, and it's like the pillow looks like a comic book, and it's red, white, and black. So it's got like different action things, and like all of the characters are doing like something different on it. So I sewed that the other day for them for their birthday, and it's just like the cutest little thing. And I got a couple of different ones, but I haven't sewn them or done anything with it because I was like, I don't know what I want to do with it yet. But anyways, that's what I aspire for my life. I aspire to be in a good headspace where I can be mentally prepared for something like that. I'm not saying life won't happen. I'm not saying like I can just all of a sudden I have like some kind of psychic thing or telepathy or whatever else. Like, I know I'm not going to know everything that's going to come to, to try to attack the relationship or whatever else. I'm just saying that if we're on the same team, maybe we could fight the battles together instead of fighting against one another. So, but anyways, it was that long ago, 2 years to today, that was the end of that relationship. And I literally felt like I didn't think this is gonna sound so sad. I know people are gonna like probably pity me and everything else. Don't feel bad for me. I got God now. I'm good. But but then this is what was happening. And so I literally felt like I didn't know how I was gonna go on. I literally felt like that was it. Like I was so I was so consumed in the relationship and thinking that I never deserved any happiness that I just felt like this was everything. Like this was the only thing that could ever happen in my life. I never really saw God blessing me or, anything like that happening. But before I rededicated my life to God, I didn't even know that was possible. So I always felt like this is what everybody's life is like because you hear people in relationships complain all the time. You hear people, I don't hear a lot of people just speak life into their relationship. Most of the time they're complaining about something their partner does. So I just thought this was normal. And I know it sounds weird, but seriously, like we have so many examples of what an unhealthy relationship looks like. It's crazy. And I think we really need to put more examples of healthy relationships out there. But I guess if it's a healthy relationship, it's not as eventful. It's not as dramatic. It's a little more peaceful. And yes, there's real life things that happen, but I don't think it would be as entertaining as it is with the unhealthy relationships. But I think that it's only entertaining because that's what we consider normal, not because that's what God intended for us or what is normal to God for us in a relationship, in a kingdom relationship, because this is what we see in society. So we feel like this is the best that God has for us. This is the best that life has for us. And it's not. It's just what we see. What's the most prominent. It's what's the most loud. It's the thing that stands out the most. And so I really just felt like, okay, so I don't know like what I'm gonna do. I'm just gonna, you know, I had no idea like how I was gonna do things. I had no idea what was gonna happen, and it wasn't like I think that it's so funny because before I got to this point, before I really tried everything to do everything I could to make this work, I literally like rededicated my life in November. November was around the time of my birthday. So on my birthday, it was just one of those, I had this, not eerie feeling, but I had this feeling like, I don't know, just something wasn't right. And I just felt like, okay, I don't know what's going on, but something is not right. And the person, didn't do like a gift or anything for my birthday. And I know you're probably thinking gifts aren't important. No, I mean, they didn't do a gift, a letter, a card, nothing. And we had been together a long time, like 15 years. And so, and then it was during the, 19. So that was when you really couldn't go anywhere. You couldn't go out to eat. You couldn't like go travel anywhere. You couldn't go to like something. You literally were just in the house. So I was in the house. I couldn't really do anything. And I decided, okay, I'm going to invite, a small group of family and friends over and I'm going to decorate things. So I made like columns of balloons. I made like a backdrop that I literally like, this is going to sound so crazy and I don't have a picture in here, but I did like a tablecloth, like a regular tablecloth. And I got these balloons off Amazon that said like, you know, however old I am, it had it on there and it had like some birthday stuff. And I had the columns and above the columns was two balloons like hanging there. And it was a couch in the middle so people could like take photos. Like the couple people that I invited over could take photos and stuff. And I reorganized the kitchen so I could set it up like a restaurant. So I put like different area here with the candles. I had like a little thing that swung that had like happy birthday on it, but it was rose gold. So it literally looked like an event that you would go to like in a place. And then I had like this table set up with a spread of food and the food was sitting on like these nice little like canisters and things. And then I had like a little thing of I think I had veggies. I don't think I did like a lot of fruits or anything like that. I think I just did veggies. And I did spaghetti. And the spaghetti it was like a spaghetti dinner. There was like baked garlic bread and plain bread that one of my family members who could really, really cook made. And so the table was all set out. It had like the little classy, like the plates were rose gold and it had like the little forks and stuff. And we were sitting there and I took earlier in the day, I bought like two watermelons or something because I eat healthy and I really don't like cake like that unless it's like got whipped topping. So, and even then I like it, but I try not to eat cake like that. And it was just my birthday. It wasn't just like all the time, but I didn't get a cake. So what I did was I brought these watermelons and I cut them into squares and I sliced them into the shape of a square cake. And I did like a 3-tier watermelon cake with my birthday candles on top and gold. Like I had the gold with the rose gold. And then I used whipped cream and I did like little like swirly lines around each tier. And then I put like strawberries in on the edges. So I did that. And then, trying to think of what else. Oh, I did like the little sparkly. I had a sparkly one on top just to like make it pop. And then a thing that said happy birthday, like in gold. So it was like rose gold and gold mixed together. And so we like had like the like nice classy dinner thing. And then I had like the backdrop in the one room with the balloons and all that stuff. So everything was nice. But the person didn't say happy birthday until after everyone left. There was no gift. And it wasn't like this person was in the house. They were gone all the time. They just didn't feel like getting me anything. And so when they did that, I was just feeling like, okay, if I wasn't here, we really wouldn't be in a relationship. What's happening? Like it was just like, to me, it felt super rude and disrespectful, honestly. And it wasn't about the gift. Like I said, if it was like a letter, like we've been together 15 years, like this is how women think. And I know guys are like, no, I mean, some women really do like expensive gifts. I'm really not that type of person. I just like for it to be thoughtful or something that I would be interested in. Like, for example, for Christmas past, people asked me what I wanted. I just said candles and books because I love reading. And I know no other woman's gonna ask for that, so please don't do that to your woman. But for me, like that's the thing that brings me joy is like being able to read books I actually enjoy and just having a moment to myself where I can just like unwind and just relax my mind, stuff like that. And so those things really matter to me, you know. But even if it was a letter that said, hey, blah, you know, I really appreciate the things that you do. This is such and such from such and such date, the day that we met each other, something, something else. I don't know what it is, but something thoughtful and love, blah, in a letter, like folded like a letter. It could have been done on paper that costs like what, $1.75. I don't know what it costs now, but and you get a pack of 100. So not only would it have been beneficial to write a letter, but then I could have used it to copy things for my business. I don't know, but but and that was at the beginning of me like really thinking about starting the business and like starting to do some things. And that was right before the business started, but I would have used the paper for like me just like learning extra stuff or using it for my daughter to like make stuff or whatever else. We would have used it for other things. And so, or I would have like made a box, or we would have made the cookie catcher or whatever else, something. But you put it in a nice little envelope, take a candle, pour down some stuff, make a little N in it or something. I don't know, for Nisha or whatever. On the front, put the name written, the end. Like, that would have been like, I understand if you can or cannot afford it. Doesn't really matter. If you got millions of dollars and you wrote a letter, but the letter was so thoughtful and you really were intentional about the things that you were doing. That's what would have mattered. But that was like a whole red flag. And so, so then I don't know. It was just a series of unfortunate events. It was that, and then my parents took me on this mini trip, and I went by myself. It was the first thing I did by myself since we have been together. Because usually, besides going to work, you know, or like if I'm home and that person went somewhere or something like that, but I literally was just like a homebody. Didn't really do much. I honestly felt like that's all life was just to just be miserable. I didn't really think there was anything else out there. So I felt like that was it. And so I know this sounds so sad, but I really truly felt like that at that time, all those years ago, all those years, but you know what I mean? And I just, I don't know. When the birthday thing happened, I said something then, and the person just was like, no, really want to work it out, blah. And so, and I don't mean blah like I'm negating their feelings. I'm just saying that's just how I talk sometimes. Okay, so we decided to try to work it out or whatever else. And it just seems like something inside of me from my birthday until January 2 years ago was just like, this isn't it. Like, you just need to move on. I really did try though. I tried. I really did try. I didn't just be like, oh, you know how like people my age are so like ready to just have a cutoff game and just throw people away. And I was just like, I don't want to do that. I want to make sure that I actually try. And even though like I was miserable, I just felt like I need to at least I need to at least give it everything that I got. And so I did. And, but when my parents took me on this trip and my dad did like this amazing thing, and I got to get like all of these things that I didn't think I deserved any of these things. I didn't think this was something that I would ever be able to do. I really just felt like this one box of where I was living, how I was thinking, what I was doing was the only thing I could ever do in my life. I really didn't see how I could have anything in the future. Like, I really felt like I was just gonna be by myself, miserable, never happy again. Like, all of these thoughts were in my mind of how life was gonna be afterwards. And the birthday thing happened, and another thing, the person slept the whole time while I decorated all the stuff. They didn't like blow up one balloon. They didn't like tie one string. They didn't set one table, put one napkin out. They did nothing. They slept all day long. And when the party happened, they came out the room and they talked to everyone and everything else. But that's it. Like, I was ignored pretty much my whole birthday until later on that night when I said it was over. And then all of a sudden, it was like, oh, let's stay together. But yeah. And so my parents booked this trip. We go on a little mini trip away for like 3, 4 days, something like that. And my dad says, hey, just do this. And I'm like, oh, okay. I'm just thinking, I was thinking I don't deserve this. Like, I don't know why my dad's doing this. This is, it doesn't make any sense. I don't understand. I really felt like I didn't deserve anything. And when I went on this trip, and I know people say like money doesn't buy happiness or money doesn't make you into anything else. And I truly believe like who you are at your core is who you'll be with money as well, because you're the same person, just with more money. And what you do with it is a little different. I just think that when I went and I got like some of these things, they were like some nicer things that I would have never bought because I'm such a cheapskate. In the past, I was just, and even now I'm like real frugal. I like spend money here and there. I try not to spend a lot of money. I really try to like take advantage of whatever it is I have, like financially, try to make sure that I'm being intentional with my finances and stuff like that. Like every once in a while, I'll get a little lax or something like that, but I really try to be intentional with my finances. And so I would have never bought anything like that. I would have never like purchased anything like that because I would have felt like I don't deserve it. Just being real, I just never would have felt like I deserved it. And so when my dad did that for me, kind of made me feel like I deserve better, like I deserve more than that. And I knew it on my birthday. And when we went away in December, it really just amplified it. It made me feel like, wow, like and I felt so happy. I felt so free being away from this person because usually we wouldn't go anywhere. Like I wouldn't go anywhere alone. I would always like go places with this person and stuff like that. And I think it was just because we were so young when we got together. So we really didn't get a chance to really be on our own. We were just out of school together. Like we met in high school and then we just stayed together, like it really wasn't just like we were single and we got to like experience life or anything like that. We just were together. And so we were always together. So I know you're probably like, that's a lot. And it was. We're getting on each other's nerves. But yeah, it was, I was just like, this is just it. And every time I would like make some money or something like that, as frugal as I was, there was always something that came up. It was always a struggle. Like being together was always a struggle. Always a struggle. Oh my gosh. It felt like no matter what I did, it was negated by what he did. No matter like if I was going to school to get a degree, and I don't know how, it's only God that brought me through school. It is only God because I had to do so much. I had to work like several jobs and go to school. And I had my child. I had to do all of these things. I had to do so many things. And this, not just a humble brag, this is a brag on God. But I managed to get president's list in school while working 2, 3 jobs and having a child. And I think it's because my child motivated me. I don't think it's just because I just got it like that. I really feel like God was covering me while I was going through that because he knew that I would come back to him. He knew that I wasn't always going to be there. So he made sure that he was always there for me. And so, yeah, I went there. And when I got those nicer things on this mini trip, it really started making me feel like I deserved better. And I knew that the person that I was with could never, ever make me feel like I did when I went on the mini trip by myself. I knew I would never feel as free as that. I knew I would never feel as confident, as sure of myself. I would never feel like I deserved anything better as long as I stayed with that person. I knew that I would never be in a place where I could benefit from the work that I was putting in. I knew it was always going to be a struggle. Like I knew. And even though I did like everything I could in between, when the end of January came, I was just like, I can't do this anymore. I can't. There's, I absolutely can't. I was upset. I was sad. Like I knew it was over in November. I knew there was no way that it was going to last. I knew that was it. It was over. I just, it was hard to let go. It really was. And it wasn't because I, I felt like the person was the one. And I mean, I did at the time think that this is just how life is. This is the person I'm going to be with. I wasn't with the person because I sought God and God said this is a person who should be a part of your life. I was with them for a whole bunch of selfish reasons, which I know a bunch of people watching this video are probably thinking that's what you get. Like, but when you're younger, you really do a lot of things in your life for selfish reasons. You don't do it because it benefits the kingdom. Most people don't even live like that. And when I try to think of the reason why we're together, it wasn't because of God at all. God wasn't even a part of our lives, our relationship. Like I would pray, going places or like do the occasional prayers and things like that. But it was so much other stuff going on in my life. It was hard to focus on God. It was really just, it felt like all of the childhood stuff just kept feeling like it was right on the cusp of overflowing. Like it just felt like the relationship brought out the worst in me. Like it made me someone that I didn't want to be. And so crazy. I don't know if it did the same thing for that person. I can't speak on that person. I can only speak from my point of view. But that's how it made me feel. And in January when I had said, okay, this is over. I don't want to do this anymore. I'm miserable. Then the person just said, okay. And they were really, really upset. And I was really, really upset. And I literally went into this room of the house that was like, oof, you could probably board a boat on the tears that I cried in that room. It was so bad. Like you don't even understand. But I went to my crying place. Place that I always cry every single night or would cry every single night when I was in this relationship. Like every night when the person was getting ready to go to sleep, I would just cry and cry and cry because I just felt so sad. But this crying that I did was like a releasing on that day 2 years ago on today, January 29th. And one of my family members was not feeling well. Something had happened to them and they were in the hospital also. And I started thinking like, and it's so weird because I had a flash when another family member passed away. I had a flash of, I don't want to do this. Life is too short. I need to move on with my life. And I don't know what it was, but something made me stay. And then when this person got sick, I said, if something happened to this person, I do not want this to be the only person that they meet. I don't want this to be the person. Like it felt like I would be such a disappointment to this person if they passed away and all they met was these knuckleheads. You know what I'm saying? Like And I don't mean that in a derogatory way. I'm just saying, like, to describe the type of people that I would date. Like, I just, I know, like, I'm so thankful for God that He brought me and my family through the person that I used to be, because I know without God, there's no way any of us would have made it, because I put people through a lot of stuff. And I don't mean it in like my intention was ever to like just try to hurt people or anything like that. It was just me being like hard headed, thinking that I knew everything, kind of thing. More like, not like just being like, I was the type of person, like, someone would tell me, hey, this is the wrong thing to do. And I'd be like, I want to do that. I know that sounds so crazy, but I was that type of kid. And so I really had to learn on my own. I felt like if any person would have told me this is what's going to happen in your life and it's going to end up like this, I would have not listened to them. I know I wouldn't have. The only person I would have listened to is God. So it's just, I know God taught me the lesson the way that He did because He knew that's how I needed to hear it. If I would have left earlier, if I would have left sooner, if I would have done things differently, I would have in my head been thinking I could have just been with this person if this is how it's going to be. Like, I would have never started appreciating life. I would have never been the person that I am today if I hadn't been through all those things, if God hadn't brought me through all those things. Let me correct that. And so, anyways, let me stay on course. So as I'm in my crying place, and I'm sitting there and I'm crying, I'm crying, I'm crying, I'm crying. I feel like sick to my stomach. I've been crying so much. Like, I feel like I'm about to get a headache. I've cried so much. Like, I have a headache. I cried so much. And God talks to me and He says, I never intended for you to have to go through any of this. Get up. Get up. And when the pastor told the story on the exact day, 2 years ago, this is exactly what God said to me. Get up. Girl, get up. My child, get up. This is not what I intended for you. It was so funny how God works, because I don't know, I feel like maybe it's meant to happen like this. I can look back over all the things that I've been through the last 2 years and see how far I've come. I don't know, but it's just amazing how God can work in your life. He can change 2 years of your life into the best 2.5 years that you've ever experienced in your entire life, when you were holding on to something that you knew you should have released, something that you knew you should have let go of, but you kept it because you felt like that was the best that God had, but God had way better for you. You thought that this was the only thing that God does is bless you with paying your bills, when in the 11th hour or whatever, but really, God can do so much more than just that. God is the God of abundance, and sometimes we forget how amazing and how impossible God is. God can literally make anything impossible possible because He is God. And when I think about the things that I went through in the past, I wouldn't trade this single life for anything in the world. I would not want to go back at all. I know I made the right decision, and I'm so happy that God was there for me when I called on His name, that He allowed me to see that I was stronger than I thought I was. I really thought that my life was going to be me on the ground in that position, in fetal position, for the rest of my life. I never thought that I would ever get up. I never thought that I would be strong enough to be a single parent. I never thought that I would be sitting on a video like this, speaking life into women who are going through the same thing that I went through. That God would put me in a position to use my testimony to help other women who are going through the same things that I thought that I wouldn't be able to make it out of. I never thought that God could use somebody like me. And He did. I know, like, when I do these videos and I say how amazing God is, some people are like, like, what? Oh, that's just the cliche thing to say. No, it's the truth. It's not just a cliche thing, it's the truth. Because I would not be here without God. I wouldn't be here without God. There's no way I could have made it without him. All of the things that I was obedient to God for, that God brought me through, I really was just thinking, oh, God's just having me do a bunch of random things that made no sense, and He got me to start a business. He got me to. Oof, God is just so good. God is just so amazing. Okay, so this was called clarity for a reason. Clarity because it allowed me to see that everything that I've been through was for a reason. That everything that God brought me through was for a reason. That even though I couldn't see how God was going to bring me out of it, or what it was going to do to benefit my life, or how my life could be any different, or how God could even use me, and He did. He did. It's just, God is just so incredible. So, without this video becoming any longer, because I do have to go up the road tomorrow because I have to go into the office. So, in conclusion, when you're seeking God, God will provide all of your needs. You seek the kingdom of God and all of His righteousness, and He will provide all of your needs. He will do everything that it is that you need to do. He will walk with you. He will be your strength when you're weak. He will get you up from a situation that you didn't even think that you could stand on, a situation that you thought was going to break you, something that you thought was going to hold you back, that you could never see yourself coming out of. God will bring you through that. And even though you can't see how He's going to do it, know that He can do it. And even when you feel like this is the best that it gets, you must not know God if you think that's the best that it gets, because God can do exceedingly and abundantly above all else that you could ever ask, think, or imagine. Don't ever forget that. Don't ever forget that God is who He said He is. Don't ever forget that God is the God that He cannot lie. Don't ever forget that God will build a bridge over troubled water. God can do anything. And even when you're in a tough situation and you feel like, well, yeah, you could say that because it's you. No, it's you too. It might look like somebody else's life is better, or like, of course this happened to them, but it could happen to you too. God can use anybody. The things that you've been through makes your story unique to you. That's what God will use as your testimony to help other people. You might be the person who ends up helping other people going through your situation and you don't even know it. You might be the person who has a kingdom relationship that is an example for what the kingdom is going to look like, what it looks like to be in a godly relationship, so that people don't just feel like, oh, what is the point of being in a relationship if it's just going to be toxic? What's the point of being in a relationship just to have to answer to someone? What's the point of being in a relationship if, someone's just, you just have to check with someone else? I don't think there's anything wrong with respecting the person that you're with, respecting their feelings and what it is that they want. Now, am I saying that you should be at their beck and call? Absolutely not. But I do think respect is a big deal. I do think that you should be loving and kind, understanding and compassionate. That you shouldn't be boastful or keeping records of wrongs, especially if you love the person. If you're in any situation and you feel like you need to keep a record of this person, that person's probably not for you. You probably want them for a selfish reason and just for you, not for God. If you pray for the person more than you pray for yourself because you want them to have the best, and even though it hurts you, if you want them to be happy, even if they can't be with you, that's God. You saying selfishly that I want this person and I will sabotage every relationship they're in isn't God. But when you can really say, I know it's going to crush me, I know I don't want this person to be with somebody else, but if God says that they should be with someone else and I'm not the person for them, I want them to be happy. That's God. When someone does something that you don't like, and even if you can't talk to them about it, if you talk a lot of stuff about it and you are keeping a record of all the things that they can't do, that's probably not the person for you. And don't just, you have to be willing to be understanding for what other people are going through. And TG said this the other day, and I felt it in my spirit. He said that most people just want to be themselves. When he said that, I felt that in my soul. Like, it's true. My desire for when I'm in a relationship is for me to be me, for someone to be okay with me being me and not to expect me to be perfect. And I never thought of someone else wanting that, you know. But of course, I think that's what we all want. We all want to just be ourselves. Do I mean like being the worst version of yourself? Absolutely not. I just mean that having somebody be okay with you being you is what is the most important. There's this, okay, I'm not going to share that story, but, but when I meet people, I want them to be who they are. I don't want them to be the person that be like the people that I used to date. I don't want them to be, any of those things except for who they are. If I am willing to get to know somebody, it's because I see something in you that is attracting me to you for whatever reason. I don't want you to be anybody else but yourself. I don't want you to try to be this way because of this. I don't want you to be this way because of this. The only thing that I want, that I like desire to have, is someone who is communicative, someone who has reciprocity and consistency. You can't fake that. You either have it or you don't. So it's so weird because looking back, hindsight is 2020 is what they say. It's so true because when you're in it, when I'm in that moment 2 years ago and I'm just thinking, oh, I don't see anything else for my future. And then God just puts all of this on my heart, all of this on my mind, like start your business, do this, do that, like write a book. I'm just like, okay, like I don't know what's happening or why, but I'm doing it because if God can get me out the floor in fetal position, then he can bring me anywhere. Imagine what he could do with me standing flat-footed in faith, with me standing flat-footed and grounded, following and seeking him. Exactly. So I hope that for you, you seek God and you allow him to do the things that he can do for your life. You don't look at what anybody else is doing. You don't think about the situation that you're in now. You just follow God. He will provide everything that you need. He provided sermons and people in my family and my friends, like people just surrounded me out of nowhere. They didn't even know all of the things that I was going through, but they were all there exactly when I needed them. The books, the everything that I could have possibly needed to heal through this breakup, God brought into my life. Like he wasn't going to let me fail as long as I kept my eye focused on him. And you could really do all things through Christ who strengthens you. Don't ever forget that.